Hi guys, I'm going to show you a nice video here about texture modification, alignment, rotation, scale and positioning, as well as using SketchUp, and how you can go from it looks like that to that instead by texturing it yourself. If you go to SketchUp, the SketchUp online repository of models, there's a huge number of stuff. It's a bit like Sketchfab, but a little bit older, I think, and particularly designed for buildings and construction, but there's a bit of everything in there. It's called 3D Warehouse. Under the licensing terms, you can use that for commercial purposes if it's you're not selling the model directly, using the model directly. If you're using it as part of a bigger financial bigger picture, then it's okay. So basically, if you find a model that you like, okay, so when you go to the 3D Warehouse website, you can just type in whatever you're looking for. There's a ton of things. I've found something already that I like. Won't come under products, you just got to click under models. This one here is actually a pretty good interior of a spaceship, which I've downloaded and adjusted. Tells you the polygons there, 447,000, but if you download the collider file, the DAE, it will double to quadruple the number of faces by default. It's just a problem in the download of the way SketchUp runs. It actually uses 2 faces for everything, and collider file picks that up. And so don't use the collider file, in other words. It's the default thing, but when you load it, it'll load at a ridiculous level. Look at that, 2.25 million polygons. That's ridiculous. You can't use that. So basically, with a lot of work and using OBJ works quite well, or FBX is pretty good as well. I got it down to 418,000 polygons. That's a lot better. It's not too bad actually for PC use. So yeah, don't use the DAY download. That's a huge problem. DAE. Even if you were to open SketchUp itself and export to DAE and click on exclude double sides, it still doesn't work properly. So you want to use OBJ or FBX export, and then it will work fine. So that's what I did with this particular model. It's one of the few exceptions that it's done so much excellent work done into it that it was worth, from my point of view, it was worth using. With a 3D Warehouse license, it is licensed for commercial use. Any of the stuff that's loaded up onto here from SketchUp, as long as you're not selling the model directly, then you can use it as part of a bigger picture. They have a whole licensing list of things for that, telling you things you can use it for. So, and on top of that, the developer of this asset actually says himself that you can use it for whatever you want, so that's fine. So now with this is a SketchUp, for example, here. One thing I would say about SketchUp is I wouldn't normally recommend stuff using SketchUp models in gaming or CopperCube, but because they're quite high polygon by default and double-sided as well, typically, which is a bit of a problem. You can fix that to make it one-sided and export it that way. And you can decimate, if you need be, certain objects and reduce the polygon count, and then it's usable. In some cases it's fine out of the box. In other cases it's ridiculously huge number of polygons. But the same as Sketchpad. They have the same issue. They have some really high polygon stuff that you hardly can use at all, and then you have a lot of low polygon stuff which is pretty good. Yeah, so they have an actual ton of models, probably thousands, maybe more, I'm not sure, of different stuff you can choose. So if you like Sketchfab and you've been through that and got what you want and haven't found maybe what you're looking for, you could try this one, I think. The 3D Warehouse, that's SketchUp models. Now, particularly this video, I want to show you how to use a very quick overview of how to use SketchUp. It actually is really good for texturing objects, I found. Better than CopperCube. Texturing objects in CopperCube is a bit of a chore. It's actually pretty terrible, actually. And you can only resize stuff in CopperCube. You can only adjust the size of the texture. You can't position it, you can't rotate it, and you can't do other things with it, which you can do in SketchUp. So I found that to edit the model rather than import the OBJ file from SketchUp straight into CopperCube and editing it that way is way easier to use SketchUp directly, work out how to use it, and it's actually a very easy program to pick up. A lot of people say it's one of the easiest programs to use, and it is very easy because it's based around, in CopperCube it'd be like a dynamic prefab where you can have multiple instances of the one object, and any one of those objects you can change and update all the rest automatically. So it's actually quite good for segregating components and sections, and it's a lot quicker, and it has a really nice and accurate snap to grid, snap to walls objects, and walls and surfaces. You can just snap them together really quick, and there's no that white lines between gaps that you get in CopperCube all the time, quite a bit, because it's not exactly matched. But with this, it'll actually exactly match it up. There won't be any, when you import it into CopperCube, there won't be any white lines seeing through the floor and things like that. It's actually really good for that. This is pretty much my finished product. I spent quite a couple of weeks on this, actually, getting it all fixed. The main problems you have to deal with are reorientating all the faces, because in SketchUp there are two faces. You can see the outer face, I've changed it to red color, and the inner face is white. So quite a few of the models you get up in SketchUp will be a mix of the two, all over the place, jumbled all over the place. And for SketchUp rendering, it actually doesn't matter, because you see one face or the other, so long as you're seeing a face or a texture. That's all that they worry about. But there are two faces, and you can look. There's an example where, okay, I'll remove that, but that's showing inside of the object. That's the reverse face, is the red. You don't want to see any red. I've just changed it to red because in the styles, you go edit. There's the back color. I've changed it to red. It's normally like a grey color. It's not very clear between the white and the grey. It's not clear enough, so I've changed it to red, make it abundantly clear. So I know, because if you import that into CopperCube under OBJ, all those red faces will disappear. They won't be showing at all. They won't even load because they're back faces. Because by default you've got back face culling, so you won't see any of that. But yeah, so then you click on the texture button, and you can move around. You use the middle mouse button and the shift to scroll left and right, up and down, and just the right mouse button to turn around, up to swivel, move, look around, in other words. So you typically use those two things. If that's no good, like small areas like this, it's not very good. you want to change the shortcuts to a look around. So I've got it to spacebar. Just click the spacebar, and then I look around. You can just turn on the spot that way. That's better for small sections and areas like that. So I'm personally, and then when you're doing stuff, you exit out at that position. So when you're using the right mouse button, and then the shift up and down to where you want, and then right mouse button. Because that's how it swings you around in wide arc. So it'll often, if you're inside of a room doing editing, it'll swing you out of the room completely, and then you have to come back. It'll take a while. So if you have a shortcut, say for example the space bar to look around, it's called. So you look around. You can do a walk, which makes you walk on the ground and bumps into objects. I don't really use that. You can zoom. Don't really use that too much. Pan and orbit. I found that looking around is good, and just the standard middle mouse button and shift for the rest of it is good. So that gets me everything I want to do. So when I'm in tight spaces, just put the look on. Yeah, and you can go up through walls and stuff. This one's got a cinema. It's got everything, this spaceship. Yeah, so I mean, I removed the couches out of it because they were the big hog of polygons. They had like, I don't know, so maybe 50 to 80,000 polygons each, and there was like 6 of them. So I just cut them out. If I want to use them, or I could use other ones, much lower polygon, and put them in later. That'd be better. So basically, I've pretty much finished the texturing of it. This is a very quick overview. I'm not going to go in detail. If anyone wants a detail of how to use SketchUp in detail from the beginning to end, how to do it, what to do, what not to do, it'll save you a ton of time. Let me know in the feedback, in the comments. If I get more than say 3 or 4 requests, separate requests, I'll do a video. Okay, so you got your style set up. Don't worry about all that rest of that stuff really. Components and entity and components is your main thing. So this SketchUp relies on grouping for viewing different sections. So if I want to edit a particular thing, the good thing about it is you can turn on component edit, hide the rest of the model, and if I want to, I'll hide some similar components. So for example, this chair, if I want to click on that and edit it, just keep clicking into it, shows you all the available objects. I can hide that if I want to, and then if I just want to update the chair by itself, you just keep double clicking on it till you get down to the base, until you highlight the actual, see that little that's the face, that's the combined faces that I'm clicking on there. If I want to see the individual, every single face, you have to go view hidden geometry, and then it will show you everything. So if I want to change that texture position, I just click on it, I go texture, I can project the texture to different angles, which is actually really good. I could reset it. You got positioning, so you got these 4 little pins, it's called. You can move them around, just click and if it's out of position. Normally I just use the green one, that's for scaling and rotation. I use that pretty much exclusively. So left click, and if I want to move it, say for example this way, I can go like that. I think the further out you go, the more, there you go, more angle accuracy you can get on it. So that's about level, something like that. And then you come back down if you want to adjust the size of it. So yeah, so basically, and then when you've done that, you can just grab it, move it around, or you can use this one. That's the same thing. Grab it, move it around. Whatever part of that texture you want to show, you can put it in there. For example, something like that, and you just click on right click, done. So that's positioning, rotation, and scale. And if I want to use that same information on other textures, you don't have to just keep doing that for every one. Just go into materials, this little sampler, just get a sample of that one there, and left click on other spots, and I'll just drop it onto it. Notice how it continues the same texture in its same orientation, wherever you had it in the last one. So if you had it right next to a seam or a break, that seam will continue in the next continuation as you paste it in, basically. Yeah, so that's actually really good like that. You can just clean up a lot of models really quickly and easy that way. This SketchUp is actually a really easy program to use. It's a very nice mix of capabilities and ease of use. There are better programs out there, obviously, for modeling. 3D modeling, I guess it's what it is. It can do rendering and all that sort of stuff, but there are better rendering systems out there and better modeling. I mean, I read that Blender itself has a little bit better functionality, but my gosh, is it hard to use? It's a shocker. This is so easy, and it's actually very quick. I find it way better to use than Blender personally, so that's why I recommend it. Yeah, I mean, Blender has, you can do a lot of stuff. I know that you can do similar things, probably the same sort of stuff, but it's a lot harder to work out and use. This is much easier. You'll pick it up a lot quicker. Just watch a couple of short videos and you'll be ready to go. Yeah, so it's way better. Just by drawing lines, this little line thing, you can create, different sections, however you like, really quickly and easy, and it'll snap to position. So it'll also it automatically snaps to different corners. So it's always going to be right, as long as you get that little green, and you can change individual textures. You can, and see all the other ones that automatically update. So this is one component, it's called. It's like a dynamic prefab, which you update any one of them and it updates all of them, basically. If you don't want to have them all updated the same, you have to just create a new unique one. That's alright, and that's easy. You just do that. So and just have a unique component then. So if you exit out of that, go back out of the group. So that's the chair. That's the component selected. So that basic chair under outliner components. It says there's 12 in total in the model. Obviously, if I wanted to have a different chair, different to all the rest, you can just say make unique, and it'll create a new component just for that one single item only. There's a ton of different things you can do. Yeah, really a lot. But I only need a few things, which is mainly used for construction, interiors, houses, and you're doing a lot of different textures and things like that are important to line up. I suggest this is still a really good program to use just for that only. You can export it from CopperCube or wherever you got it and load it up into SketchUp. It can take a few different formats. You got here 3ds, DAE, all these other ones. You got texture files as well as 3D files. So basically 3ds, DAE you can load up. Yeah, so they're your main ones. OBJ, not so sure about. Not sure about that one. But anyway, DAE is a pretty common thing. But just when you're exporting back into CopperCube, don't use DAE. Use OBJ. You can export in a few different ones. 3D model. So OBJ, you can use 3ds if you want. DAE, don't use that one. FBX does work most of the time pretty good. It's a little bit more fussy. I find OBJ is the best. You can use STL as well. Yeah, so I've had no issues with OBJ and CopperCube. It's actually very good. Or any other program. Yeah, so you can do texture atlasing in a sense. I think that's what you would call it. So you can have multiple textures on one image, and then you can just go and line up different objects to that one texture only. For example, so notice how wherever you point on the screen is where it'll go to. So over there or over there. So it'll speed up according to how far away it is. So it's actually good like that. So I'll go into, for example, these little switches. I've got them on different colored textures. So exit out of that. Double click, go into the group, keep going out until you get right down to the final highlighting of the textures. So now it's highlighting each one. These were done using this texture here, Glow 4, each one. So they're all using the same texture, but that one texture has different information put onto it. It's just a lot easier that way. Otherwise, because otherwise you get too many textures. You've got to avoid the limit. So many textures in this in your model. You don't have too many. I don't know, 20, 30 maybe. At the moment, I think I got about 50 something, so it's probably a little bit too much. There's duplications. Try and avoid duplications. You don't need to do that. You just use the one and redo the one that you've deleted with the same texture, but with a new could be new scale and new position, how you like it, and it'll just all refer back to that one texture. So when you, for example, this blue glow light, it's in my whole game. This is meant to set up. It's meant to be for the lighting of all the interiors. This blue light, so it's basically everywhere in all the corridors and everything. That's what's going to use the glow that keep the place alight. I'm going to use a emissive material on that and set up. So basically, that's not one gigantic. That's multiple different faces, polygons throughout the whole ship, all over the place. But it's using that one texture. When you import it back into CopperCube, it'll just load it as one texture, even though it's being used multiple different times in different ways. There it is there. So, for example, yeah, so if you would change it, you can, for example, turn it on and off. You can do a lot of things. The whole ship will update all in one go. It doesn't have multiple textures, because you've used different, you've done it in different sections. It's used once across all the areas. For example, this texture here, it has a ton of different, I'll go to the folder, hang on. Okay, so that texture there, that has a ton of different images on it, and that's actually a very good way to optimize memory and draw calls and stuff like that in running a game. So you can put all your different pictures in the one image and then just reference parts of that one image into each green, and that's exactly what happens in SketchUp and CopperCube. So each face or vertex, or however you like want to call it, it's able to refer to different part of that one image. So for example, so go in here, this is, you can see I've split up. I've just taken it just for testing. I've just taken a small section of it for these ones versus that one versus other monitors have different parts of it. Yeah, you can take and select whatever you like from that one image. I guess it's a bit like texture atlasing, isn't it? I think that's what they call it, like you do in Blender. But anyway, it does it all here, no problems, and that's a good way to optimize the number of textures. Put a whole stack of textures into one image and just reference parts of it to whatever faces that you want in the game, in the model. Now there's a limitation to that, I believe, is that if you're repeating that texture a lot and not just a once-off image for that one object, then I don't think you can do it that way, because what it'll do, it'll pick up all the other images, and you'll eventually see all these other images in the texture as you repeat that same texture. Especially if you're going to be using the same design throughout the wall, going across and up and all the surfaces, you're going to make use of this sample paint thing. What that's going to do is continue that texture that you had for that one section and keep continuing it for the next one, and then it reaches the end of the texture, it just starts again from the other side of the texture and repeats. So you can't do that when you've got multiple different images on the one texture. But so, for example, if you're doing a lot of texture repeats on walls and surfaces, then in those cases you just use that one image on the one texture. Otherwise, yeah, so you can't use multiple images on the one texture, in other words, for those ones. So you can have a mix of the two. One that some that you have a lot of texture repeats, and others that you don't have any texture repeats. It's just a single image. So that's, yeah. So there's, a whole stack of different images coming up there, and you can just choose what you want for whatever image, whatever screen. And actually, yeah, it's really good. That's an efficient way to do it all. So yeah, so it's back in CopperCube. So it looks basically the same, just without all the the lines, the black lines on the outer edges of it. Looks better in CopperCube. Yeah, so when you have proper dynamic lighting and things like that, look even better. This is dynamic already, but it doesn't have proper lighting set up. Yeah, so it's a pretty good model, this particular one. This is only one of the few times I would actually use a SketchUp model for my game, CopperCube, because I mean it does take a bit of work. So firstly, you've got to reorientate all the faces to one single direction, which took me probably a couple of days at least. I mean, there are shortcuts and extensions in SketchUp you can use that can make it a lot easier, which is good. You got these are all extensions different here. You can download mostly for free and update, just like you do with CopperCube. It's very simple to do. Yeah, so you can even download if you don't want to export it to Blender, if it needs to be decimated, if there's too many polygons, you can download an extension called Skimp. It comes at a cost, but it's free for a short time. It doesn't always work, so I wouldn't use it. Or it was good for some things, but other things it didn't work at all. So you can enable and disable different extensions that way. It's actually pretty good. A lot of them are free, most of the free ones. So yeah, you can have a lot of shortcuts set up for keyboard shortcuts, however you like. What is it? Edit, what is it? Window preferences, shortcuts. Yeah, so you can assign whatever you want to different keyboard shortcuts. It's actually really good. It's actually a very powerful system. It's deceptively powerful, actually. SketchUp. For example, if you select an item, for example, using this selection using the box will be different to to the left to right. It'll do different things. It'll select different things. So in other words, yeah, it has a whole stack of functionality that's actually quite it's really well done. But it looks, and it's a very simple and easy to use program in its basic form. But you can do a lot of stuff with it. So that's why I like it. Actually, it's easy to learn and use. Once you get a handle of the controls are a little bit weird. It took me a little while to get a handle on that. It's not my favorite. You know, I mean, CopperCube's so easy. You just use the cursor keys, isn't it? But and the mouse. But this is a little bit different. But anyway, you can get used to that. So, for example, see you've got something wrong going on there. At least the faces are correct. So I wouldn't. If you loaded it in CopperCube, that would never come up anyway. Wouldn't be a problem. But yeah, SketchUp has double faces. Just be aware of that. And obviously you only want to ever see single faces. It's a waste of time to be drawing stuff you're never going to see. And so so in other words, everything's got to be white, and yeah, not the other back-sided face, the red or grey, the default grey that comes with it by default. Yeah, so this has got a nice little cargo bay area. It's got everything actually. It's got a shocking amount of stuff. So for example, go back to color. There's the cargo bay. You can the speed of the mouse will rotate, and the movement will move according to what you're looking at, and how far away that object is from where you're looking. So it's sort of good in a way, but if you don't like that, you can also turn that off. Yeah, this has got a lot of stuff. It's got a gym. It's got everything. This I've started using this reverse faces thing. It actually works pretty good in CopperCube, the fake reflective. You just need to reverse the horizontal image so that when you're looking at the image, say for example I go over this way, it's going to look at stuff coming from back facing from over this way. So you're going to want to see that in the image, and then if I'm looking at this image here and I go over this way, it's going to show stuff. You're going to want it to show stuff over this way. So anyway, I'm just started working on that. It's got a gym. It's got some sort of crazy spa, sauna. It's a funny thing. Yeah, it's got everything. It's even got a dojo underneath. Yeah, so obviously all these doors have to be replaced and adjusted in CopperCube. So for my game, I'm going to have it all dynamically opening and sounds and everything. It's even got a funny little dojo, karate. Anyway, it's just a bit of fun, I suppose. So the developer of that model, put all that in. It's pretty cool. Thought, oh yeah, why not? Just keep it. Here's the medical room. It's got basically everything you could think of in a spaceship. Yeah, so that's the only reason why I'm using it, because it's so much work was put into it. The good thing about the SketchUp is each one of this same design is just a single component. Get rid of the materials. Okay. So that's a locker small. Inside I've called it. You can change the names of things. You can group it how you like. And there's 21 in total in the model. It tells you right there. So in update this one, it'll update all 21 objects at the same time. And if I didn't want to have just have a unique object, just make it unique. That's what you do, make a new component out of it. So it's based all around components, or dynamic prefab really is really what it probably could be called. Yeah, and you just group it into sections. The sections are just for visibility purposes, so you can hide and unhide things as you like. So for example, back in the spaceship, you can click on a thing and instantly shows it up. You can turn things on and off to view things at different times. But the best thing is this one here, component edit, hide the rest of the model. So you only ever need to see the thing you're working on. So you can easily get around the objects, look underneath it, above it, without bumping into things very easily, without going through walls and all the rest of it. So this has got a component of the door, the hinge, inner and outer sections. Yeah, so that's double-sided. Yeah, so in other words, if I wanted that texture on the back side as well, which is what I want, so just go to the end, keep clicking on it until the texture goes, it's got like a haze, like a blue. It's not very clear actually, but you know you've selected it that way. So then I want to put that, just copy that and put it on the back. Okay, so the back of it's out of alignment, so just click on it, go to texture. If it doesn't, when you click on it, if texture, you go right click, if texture doesn't show up, it's because it's got hidden geometry. In most cases you actually need to show hidden geometry for it to show up. So then you can go position, you can reposition it. So it's got the size when I copied it over across, but it didn't position it. Well, it did, but in a different way that I want. So anyway, that looks pretty good. Good enough. So that's the same as that. Yeah. So it's actually very, very easy. Now that's updated all of them now. So quickly and easily, every single one of them in the game, it's updated all of them the same way. So that's the good thing about SketchUp, is you can quickly update components that are shared in the game, which is, most games have a lot of stuff that you use multiple times, isn't it? So it's actually a fast way to update and edit things, I find. It is a lot better than CopperCube. I wouldn't really use CopperCube for, you know, building interior designs like 3D modeling, building constructions like interior design so much. This is a much better system, and you quickly, if you decided to use SketchUp, you quickly get the handle of it, and you'll find it's actually really good when you use multiple components. Just make sure when you're updating an item, if you want a specific texture for that one item, just make it a unique component. Otherwise you'll be forever updating it and then going back and changing it and re-changing it, and you'll think, what the hell's going on? It's because it's a shared component, and you're updating it and you keep changing it. So you need to make it unique if you want a different individual texture set up for that, in other words. Some other things you can do better with SketchUp is you can do texture projection, which is you got a typically with rounded objects, it will sort of fix up, if you like, the texture positioning according to. So that looks like a flat, doesn't it? What I'm looking at right now, it looks like a flat wall, but it's actually not. It's got a ton of different. So go view hidden geometry. It's got a ton of different faces and vertices on it, and I believe they're actually at different angles too. Anyway, so basically, if what you're getting, the texture is not lining up how you like, what you can do is use a really cool thing called projected texture. So you take a texture, you turn it into projected, and then just use this sample paint and just keep painting across, and it will carry forward the look of that same texture across wherever you like. It's actually a really cool tool as well. It's something I think in Blender, I don't think there's even got something like that to my knowledge. Anyway, so yeah, so once again, basically, SketchUp I find is actually really good for interior design and for just fixing up texture, positioning, rotation, sizing, and things like that. It's actually really good and really easy to use. Obviously, Blender can do most of the same stuff, if not the same, but I find Blender is really hard to use. I actually don't like using it much. The online videos, YouTube, they always don't help that much half the time. So, but the videos for here is actually really clear and really easy. So I actually recommend you learn how to use SketchUp if you're doing a lot of interior design, or if you just want to fix up some textures in your 3D model. So it's actually quite easy to do. Yeah, and copy and paste the same formats across to other sections. It's just a really fast way to update stuff, I found, and it does a much nicer job than any other way I've found. Yeah, so feel free to comment if you think there's better ways to do it, but this is the best one I've found for now. There are better 3D modeling, softwares, of course. You know, you've got Maya, 3D Max, and you've got all these other big and professional things, but they're very sophisticated and actually expensive. SketchUp, you can get a free online version, I'm told, so a web-based version for free, so that's very cool. So you don't want to be paying for hundreds and hundreds of dollars for stuff that you're not going to use much. Yeah, I think actually SketchUp is pretty good. And then you've got your 3D warehouse. You can check the models there. There's a ton of different models. There's thousands and thousands of different models, however you like. Tend to be mainly used for construction, like blocky square images and things, but you can use it for whatever you like, really. You can do rounded edges and all the rest of it. There's no problem, but it will tend to use a lot of polygons more so. But then again, so does everything when you do rounded edges. But yeah, so I don't use this that much for spaceships because the polygon count's usually a bit too high, and a lot of old models here. Sketchfab is better in my opinion, but if you're just doing some manual editing of texturing or retexturing something yourself, I actually find SketchUp is really good and I recommend it. So alright guys, I'll leave it with you there. Cheers.